Hello, everybody, and welcome back to BioSC 140 Human Physiology. This video is going to cover Lecture Exam 3 Group Problems, Part 2. So, two important reflexes help control blood pressure and blood flow in the cardiovascular system. First, explain the mechanisms for redistribution of blood flow during exercise. In your explanation, include the exercise pressor reflex, general mechanisms for changes that could possibly affect blood pressure, and the most likely cause of these changes. Then explain the baroreceptor reflex given an increase of 10 millimeters per mercury in the mean arterial blood pressure. Also, include how blood pressure is generally regulated from a long-term standpoint. All right, so let's start with the exercise pressor reflex. When exercise begins, blood needs to be partitioned from areas such as the gut to areas where metabolism will be higher, such as the working muscle. If you're doing bicep curls, you need more blood going to your biceps. This is accomplished through the exercise pressor reflex. This reflex is initiated through a feed-forward process. What's a feed-forward process? Feed-forward reflex, it's an anticipatory reflex where the body anticipates a change in the blood pressure prior to exercise and changes the blood pressure and flow to accommodate that. It begins with a massive sympathetic outflow, so increase the frequency of sympathetic signals being sent, where all vessels become constricted. Then, local chemicals are released in working muscle, which leads to vasodilation and active hyperemia. So, all vessels constrict. The muscles you start using, they have increased metabolism. There's increased byproducts of metabolism. Those byproducts of metabolism cause vasodilation, so that you get vasodilation where you need vasodilation. You get more blood where you need more blood. This decreases the resistance in these vessels, thereby increasing blood flow to the working muscle as blood is shunted from the gut and other tissues due to increased resistance. Thus, by constricting the blood vessels overall, we have assured venous return, but have also partitioned blood to the areas of need. Baroreceptor reflex. The stimulus for the baroreceptor reflex is a change in mean arterial blood pressure. This can be an increase or decrease in pressure. Once this happens, the baroreceptors, located in the large thoracic arteries and coronary sinus and kidneys, detect the change in pressure and send this information to the cardiovascular centers of the medulla via cranial nerve 9 or the glossopharyngeal. The medulla serves as the integrating center, as this and other types of information relating to the pressure and flow come into this portion of the medulla. If a change is needed, the medulla signals autonomic nerves to adjust blood pressure. These nerves include cranial nerve 10, the vagus for parasympathetic, the cardioaxillary nerve with sympathetic, a branch of the sympathetic nervous system, and other sympathetic nerves which go to the heart, blood vessels, kidneys, and adrenal glands. So, stimulus is an increase of MAP by 10. Our pressure receptors detect it. They send a signal via an afferent nerve, glossopharyngeal, to the integrating center, the processing center, the medulla, the cardiovascular center of the medulla. This then decides that it wants to decrease MAP by 10 millimeters of mercury. So what does it do? It increases parasympathetic stimulation of the heart, of the nodes of the heart, which will decrease blood pressure. It will decrease sympathetic nerve stimulation to the heart, which will decrease heart rate. It'll decrease the strength of contraction or intertropy and decrease the conduction rate or dromotropy. This is going to decrease heart rate and decrease stroke volume. This is going to decrease sympathetic signals to vessels, which is going to cause vasodilation. It's going to decrease sympathetic nervous system stimulation to the kidneys, which is going to cause us to make more pee. That's the long-term control. This last part, what's the long-term control? What's the long-term control of blood pressure? Long-term control of blood pressure is blood volume. So you make more pee, you have less blood volume. And then it's going to go to the adrenal glands, and it's going to decrease sympathetic stimulation of the adrenal glands, which will decrease epinephrine output. Perfect. All right, let's move on. I want you to really think about this first part. How can it be that a person who has just died from a heart attack, a lack of oxygen to the heart, can have a more than adequate supply of oxygenated blood in their left ventricle? So, this person died from lack of oxygen in its heart, yet the left ventricle is full of oxygenated blood. How is that? If the person does not die but enters the hospital after a recent heart attack, their cardiac function may be severely affected. Suppose the ejection fraction is 33% and the stroke volume is measured to be 25 milliliters per beat. Because of this heart attack, his heart rate is down to 40 beats per minute. Please answer the following questions. Figure out stroke volume, ejection fraction, heart rate, cardiac output, and diastolic volume and systolic volume. What is the likely cause of the abnormal changes in cardiac function? What is the scientific name for this abnormal heart rate? So let's start with this first part. The person can die from a heart attack and still have oxygen in the chambers. Where does gas exchange happen? Where do things go in and out of our circulatory system? The capillaries. The capillaries. The ventricle is not a site of gas exchange. No oxygen is going in and out of our bloodstream in our ventricles. Blood gets pumped out of our ventricles into our aorta. It goes through the arterial tree back to the capillaries within the muscle of our heart. And that's where oxygen is exchanged with those cells. In a heart attack, the vessels that supply blood to those capillaries within our heart, they get blocked. So no blood then goes to that part of the heart, and those heart cells die. All right, so familiarize yourself with these equations. Expect to see these equations on the exam. I would have a flashcard with these next to you, so you can practice them, make your flashcards, know these equations. Let's put them to use. So stroke volume is SV, ejection fraction EF, heart rate HR, cardiac output is Q, and diastolic volume is EDV, and systolic volume is ESV. What's larger, EDV or ESV? And diastolic volume. End of diastole. Diastole is where it fills up, where everything's relaxed. And systole is after, at the end of contraction, where you push everything out. So by rearranging these, you can see what variables were given in the problem. So stroke volume is 25. Whenever you have questions like this, it's best to just lay out the variables that you have. And then you can look at your equations, you can look at the variables you have and figure out which variables you don't have and do some math and figure them out. So stroke volume 25, heart rate 40, ejection fraction 33%. So thus, you only need to calculate the following, and you can do through simple rearrangement of the previous equation. So cardiac output is equal to Q. Cardiac output is stroke volume times heart rate. So we've got stroke volume, we've got heart rate, 1,000 milliliters per minute is our cardiac output. And diastolic volume is equal to systolic volume divided by ejection fraction times 100. So 25 divided by 33% gives us 75 milliliters. It's our end diastolic volume. end systolic volume is going to be end diastolic volume minus stroke volume gives us 50 milliliters as our end systolic volume. This table demonstrates that the cardiac muscle is damaged and not working as well as a pump, since there's a decrease in all of these variables. So, normal person has these variables. This person with a heart attack who had part of their heart damaged, not as efficient, not working as well. All right. It's a warm and sunny day, and Mike's outdoor wedding. He suddenly faints. Oh no. In the middle of the ceremony, although the ceremony is long, Mike has been standing very still with his knees locked and listening attentively. Explain how locked knees combined with the heat contributed to Mike's fainting. A doctor took Mike's blood pressure and noted that it was 90/60. Calculate his MAP and pulse pressure from these figures. In addition, given that Mike's heart rate is 120 beats per minute, his stroke volume is 58.34 milliliters per beat, and his total peripheral resistance is 0.01 millimeters of mercury times minute divided by milliliters. Calculate his mean arterial blood pressure from those variables as well. Do the two methods of calculating MAP match? Why or why not? In addition, what is the likely cause of the excessive heart rate but lower stroke volume and decreased total peripheral resistance? So, while standing with his legs locked, Mike will diminish his venous return to his heart as blood pools in his legs due to the lack of muscle pump and gravity. So, muscle pump, because he's standing still, is not helping him get blood back to his heart, and gravity is working against it. So, decreased venous return. Also, with the high temperature, his blood is going selectively to his skin surface. So he has much less blood centrally, less blood going to his body core and brain, which in turn means there is less blood returning to his heart. So two things that are decreasing venous return, which decreases the amount of blood that's just pumped out with each beat. He can no longer pump a sufficient amount of blood to his brain, so he faints from lack of oxygen. His blood pressure is 90/60, which means his pulse pressure is 90 minus 60, which is 30. This is a lower pulse pressure than normal, which indicates stroke volume is less than normal, as pulse pressure is a good estimate of stroke volume. Blood's not returning to his heart, so he's not able to pump it out. His MAP is 70. Mike has reduced stroke volume, as indicated by the given value of 58.3 milliliters per beat. Normally at 70, 20% decrease in stroke volume. This is also consistent with the idea that there is reduced venous return. In an attempt to return cardiac output to normal levels, Mike increases his heart rate and therefore his cardiac output. In addition, the heat contributes to Mike's higher than normal heart rate. Because his heart rate is above 100 beats per minute, Mike has tachycardia. In addition, given that Mike's heart rate is 120 beats per minute, his stroke volume is 58.34 milliliters per minute, and his TPR is 0.01, calculate his MAP from those variables as well. Well, we can use MAP. There's another way to calculate MAP beyond using systolic and diastolic blood pressure. You can use MAP is equal to heart rate times stroke volume times TPR. We have both of these equations in our lecture notes. And we've gone over both equations, in lecture. Given the following variables, you just need to plug them into your equation. So we have heart rate, we have stroke volume, we have TPR. Let's plug them in. So 120 beats per minute times 58.34 milliliters per beat times 0.01 millimeters of mercury times minute divided by milliliters gives us 70 millimeters of mercury. 70 matches 70. Both equations give us the same answer. All right. Moving on to our last one, the bonus, number 7. I'm going to say a few words on it, but I'm not going to go over it. This is basically a memorization um, question. Um, this information is important, and expect to see a lot of questions from group problem number 7 on the exam. But it's not really a concept question. It's mainly memorization. So good luck studying all of these. Good luck on your exam. As always, if you have any questions at all, just let me know. I'm here to help, and I will see you in the next video.